Child trafficking or child abuse is a global phenomenon which continues to grow against all odds due to the prevalence of some factors which will be discussed today on Law, Society and I. Every country, not excluding Nigeria and Delta State, is affected by the menace of child trafficking and child abuse one way or the other. Child trafficking or child abuse has gone beyond moving from one country to another. It has extended to moving from one state to another or one community to another within the same state. Over time, research has shown that majority of persons who fall victims of child trafficking or child abuse are women and children. And one begins to wonder, despite measures that have been put in place by the government, federal and state governments, the rate keeps increasing, even with the efforts of Nigerian government, non-governmental organizations, both internationally and within the states. However, children continue to be fraudulently separated from their parents by outright sale or promise of a better life, in quotes, only for them to end up exploitative situations which cannot be said to be in the best interest of the child. Well, as you do know, I am not alone in the studio today. I have a guest who will do justice to today's topic. I have no other person than Barrister Faith Onyonyewoma, Mrs. I hope I got that correctly.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And today on Law, Society and I, our topic for discourse is child trafficking and child abuse. Now, before we dive into the topic for today, I'd like you to tell us, who is a child?
Under the CRC, a child is anyone under 18 years, simply defined.
Okay.
So once you're under 18 years, you're regarded as a child. That's the simple definition. Yes.
Anybody under 18 years
is a child.
Yes. Okay. What is child trafficking and what is child abuse?
Okay. Let's take child trafficking. Child trafficking is a complex organization or network of persons who adopt, kidnap, and then uses other various means like transportation to exploit our children. And most times it's for sex, for organ harvesting, child labor and all that. Then child labor, right?
Child abuse.
Child abuse is when these children are deprived of their childhood. They don't have access to education, mentally, physically, no social development. That is child abuse.
Do we have agencies that are responsible for issues relating to child trafficking and child abuse?
Very well, very well. NAPTI, which is National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. Then we have task forces which are set up in various states, comprising of NGOs, state government offices, stakeholders. They also have international organizations. So because of this human trafficking or child trafficking, I decided to collaborate with our federal government. We have IOM, which is International Organization for Migration. That have also collaborated with state offices or federal offices like National Orientation Agency, Immigration Office. They've also collaborated with some CS, which are civil societies, to see how they can fight this menace, human trafficking. So,
are the police or other paramilitaries?
Yes, thank you for that. The Nigeria Police Force is also a very good instrument, which has also been used over time to fight human trafficking. We also have MWASD. We also have NACTA, which is Association of Civil Societies or different NGOs who come together for this common purpose.
Child trafficking is as old as man itself.
Yes,
now, is there any what are the causes of child trafficking?
There are lots of causes. Firstly, on the list is poverty. You know very well when parents cannot provide for their children, anybody can come and ask for any of the children, which may be trafficked or used as child labor. They also have lack of education. We also have lack of economic opportunities, where these young ones, maybe after their elementary education, they cannot further, and their promises are made to them that there is better life out there. They also have peer pressure. We also have debt bondage, where the parents or guardian, they're owing the other person some money, and for them to pay, they need to give out their child.
Their child?
Yes.
In exchange for the debt?
For the debt.
Wow.
So all these are reasons why human trafficking or child trafficking occurs.
I would like to know, is child trafficking, it's already an established fact that it's an offense. Is it a criminal offense?
A very strong criminal offense. In fact, if caught, you're liable to 5 years or 10 years in prison or pay a very high fine. So it's a very grievous criminal offense.
So are there remedies to child trafficking?
I wouldn't want to use the word remedies.
Okay.
But they can be curbed to an extent. That is, if every one of us put our hands on them to make sure that we'll be able to fight this menace. There are ways we can actually fight this human trafficking. There has to be a lot of awareness creation. Parents, because most times it starts from the home, you understand? Or usually that's one of the easiest ways for these children to be trafficked. Though some could be kidnapped too. So parents need to be told, they need to be aware that these children are not given the best of welfare. Whatever the person may have promised is not what they do. By the time the child is taken across border, is either he or she is either used for child labor, exploited sex, human and organ harvesting and all that. So when these parents understand this, I think a lot of them will not be willing to give out their children. You understand? Yeah. Then there's also need for government agencies to step up, to see how we can fight this menace. Then there needs to be stiffer punishments. I know ordinarily the law provides for 5 years or 10 years or fines, but for me, I don't think there should be an option of fine.
It should just be the sentencing and that's it.
Yes, they should go on. By the time a lot of persons are kept behind bars, I think it will serve as deterrent to this perpetrators of human trafficking or child abuse.
So aside fine and the sentencing of the jail term, yes, which will definitely come to an end one day, okay, don't you think death penalty or something stiffer should be also equal?
I would think of life imprisonment. Whoa. Even when the law provides for death penalty, like murder case and all that, they're usually not executed. Unfortunately, most judges are not very willing to put their pen to paper
to sentence someone to
death. So it may be said, but it's not executed. So for me, I would even prefer life imprisonment for such perpetrators. So.
Well, in case you're just joining us, is Law Society and the topic for today is child trafficking and child abuse. So far, so good. We've been able to establish who a child is. A child is any person below the age of 18 years. Yes, what is child trafficking? Moving a child from a place to another for exploitative purpose. I'm sure I got that correctly by Faith. Well. Yes, and the agencies responsible, we have NAPTIP, we have other civil societies, we have the police, we have some NGOs who are also trying their best to ensure that this societal menace is curbed in our society. So I would like to ask, can child trafficking be prevented?
What can be, it may not totally be prevented, but it can be to an extent curbed. Like I said, when these punishments are executed, because even when these punishments are there, most of them are really effected.
Okay.
And then even the agencies responsible for catching these people, NAPTIP has done very well. I won't lie about that. Over the years, we've recorded a good amount of persons, offenders who have been brought to book, they've been sentenced and they face the law. So, but measures we can use in trying to curb this menace is, if as a neighbor you see a red flag, what I mean by red flag is, you're seeing that a child, a young girl that used to stay around, you don't see her again. You ask questions. We know, when a child is trafficked, when you keep asking questions, some people will start getting angry. They come around. Most of these traffickers, they come in the disguise of, they are funny enough that within our neighborhood, they could be our sisters, our brothers, our relatives, and they come with promises of taking this child to a better environment. Some parents are not even told that they are taking them across borders. They tell them, I'm taking the child to Lagos. We had an example like that. She called and we're actually doing sensitization, like a street campaign, and she came to us and she was crying. She said she doesn't know where her child is. She can't talk to the child directly. Oh, is that why you say stop? she can't talk to the child directly, and so she needed us to help. But I now asked, have you ever spoken to her? She said yes, but the person will just bring the phone, and once you finish talking, before she asks more questions, they will end the call. So I told her, anytime the call comes in, let her write the number down. We're going to track it, and we did. And we realized that she was still in Benin here.
Not even in Lagos.
Not even in Lagos, and she was being used for sex business. So these are things we are telling our people to understand. When you see persons, when you know very well that these children are trafficked, there's nothing wrong in raising alarm. You can report to the police station, you can report to NGOs like mine, Dove, and Info Initiative. We have our WhatsApp number. You don't need to come out openly to say, I suspect this. Just give us the certain information we need, and we'll carry it from there, and we'll be able to make something like that happen. So these are measures that we kept in place. We have task force, we have trained community people, community leaders who know how to investigate such matters. You understand? When you meet them and say, yes, I'm suspecting something like this has happened, you know how to carry. They can commonly invite the person and say, your daughter, where your daughter go? Your son, where you carry and go? We have to be sure that this child is well wherever he or she is.
Is child labor the same as child abuse and child trafficking?
Okay, they will use 3 words now.
Yes.
Or 3 terms.
Yes.
Child labor simply means when a child is used for a labor that ordinarily that child is not supposed to do, like carrying heavy load. The child is supposed to go to school, he's not going to school. The child is out here on the streets and selling. The child is deprived of a lot of things. That's child labor.
Okay.
Then child trafficking is when the child is taken from the parents, kidnapped, and transported elsewhere for exploitative purposes. Because child labor can even be within your environment. Or child trafficking usually goes beyond. It may not be in the same environment. It could be within state or outside. But most times it's usually executed when that child is taken outside the country. Because this child is exploited for sex, organ harvesting, and others. Then why child abuse, right?
Yes.
Child abuse is when the child is deprived of his childhood, doesn't have access to education, doesn't have access to social development and all that. They are all interrelated anyway.
I remember sometime last year, the Edo State government inaugurated, I think it's a task force or a committee, saddled with the responsibility of picking up children that are hawking during school hours. Do we have that in place in Delta State?
Very well. In fact, when it was inaugurated, it was very, very effective. We weren't seeing children on the streets again. But for some time, I think it has
died down
a bit. And so I think we'll be calling out to these agencies or these communities or these task forces. It's not just that. The task force actually comprises of a lot of NGOs. There is need to wake up to our duties. We need to allow the children to have their fundamental rights, which is right to education, right to a better life and all that. So I think it's a wake-up call, because most of these children that are allowed to walk on the street are usually easy access for these traffickers. So for now, it's died down a bit, but with what has been happening over time, for the past few years, we have recorded a very high number of young ones that be trafficked. It's not an interesting story. It's not an interesting story. So I think the government, NGOs, CS, and every stakeholder in this business should wake up. To see how we can fight this business, and that should start with not allowing children to be on the street. They should be in their classes where they have the right to be.
Most traffickers, most victims of child trafficking or child abuse that have been successfully recovered from the claws of these, I wouldn't want to call them monsters now. I wouldn't want to use that word. Is there any measure in place to protect their sanity? Because most times they don't come back the same way they left.
Very well. There have been centers, like you have the migration center in certain areas in Nigeria, and we have IOM, I told you before, the International Organization for Migration, that has collaborated with other NGOs or government offices. And when these persons are brought back, they are usually kept in places where they are talked to, they try to see how they can get across whatever experiences they've had while they were there. So we have such. We do, you know. So when these persons are brought back, some of them are asked what skills they may have learned, and so they are helped along that line so that they don't come back and still be on the streets. I mean, some of them left Nigeria because they want better opportunities. So when they come back, even when they don't learn a skill, they make them learn one or two things, and then they go from there so that the trauma they may have having come back from such places, they will be able to let it go. So we have such things put in place for such persons brought back to Nigeria.
While you were defining a child, you said a child is anybody below 18 years. Now, in a situation where the child is 16 and gives his or her consent to go with the auntie, does it really matter in dealing with such cases?
It does matter because, at 16 years from the Nigerian Constitution, you're already an adult. We are using this definition because we are talking about child abuse or child labor.
Okay.
Now, if at 16 you decide to go with your aunt and then whatever happens, at that moment, consent or no consent does not really matter. Because ordinarily you're going with your auntie because you're thinking
she has good intentions.
Good intentions for you. But finally, when you get there, you find out it's something else. So we tell them, we go to schools, we do school sensitization, we tell these young ones, it's not all that glitters are good. If they like you so well, let them give you the money to continue further your education. If it's education they're taking you out there for. At 16, you should be thinking of furthering your education. If you really want to. Then if you cannot afford education, you think of learning a trade. You're always safe with your parents or your guardian. And even if you have to leave, your parents need to be sure where they're taking you to. But funnily, most parents will not follow through. They're not interested. And she's my sister or my brother. There's nothing wrong for the child to go stay with the aunt. And that's how most of them have been trafficked. Like I said initially, most of these traffickers are people around us. It could be our brothers, sisters, neighbors, and all that. Even community leaders in our environment. So it is a problem that eating deep into the society. So that's why everybody's hands have to be on deck to fight it.
All right, what we'll do right now is go on a short break and we'll continue after the break. Don't forget, it's Law Society and I have a wonderful guest in the studio with me, Barrister Faith. The topic for today is child trafficking and child abuse. Please don't go nowhere, stay with us. Welcome back, it's Law Society and I. And the topic for today is child trafficking, human trafficking, if you must say, and child abuse. As you know, we have a guest with us here, Barrister Faith, who is the president and president of IFO Initiative and chairperson of DOF, a non-governmental organization. So far, so good. We've been able to discuss who a child is, a person below the age of 18, the agencies responsible for issues relating with child or human trafficking or child abuse. We have NAPTIP, we have civil societies, we have the police, we have other agencies, including the Nigerian Immigration Service. We've also been able to discuss the causes of child trafficking, which we say is the major cause is poverty and lack of exposure, indebtedness of some parents or aunties unable to pay their debts and what have you. So we would like to proceed further by asking our guests some more questions. Now, we've been able to establish what child or human trafficking is and child abuse. I would like to know the laws that regulates child trafficking. Yeah,
because there are a lot of laws. We have Labor Law Acts. We also have the Child Rights Act, 2003. We have Immigration Acts. We also have the Constitution. If you permit me, Section 28, 29, and 30 of the Child Rights Act of Part 3 actually stipulates all forms of child labor and the punishment for such offense. So especially the Child Rights Act actually regulates any offenses relating to child abuse or child trafficking, majorly. But we also have other laws, which I just mentioned, Labor Acts, the Immigration Law. Then we also have Chapter 4 of the Constitution, 1999.
You made mention of forms. Now, what are the forms of child abuse?
There are lots. a lot of forms. Hawking, making children to sell on the streets. That's one form of child abuse. Then we also have molestation or rape. These children are kept in custody of their uncles or aunts. And when all this happens, there are forms of child abuse. The child is either raped custody without anybody know what's happening. They also have other forms of child abuse. Could be torture for whatever offense the child does, which may not be so big. Even if it's big, the child is subjected to so much torture, maybe by serious flogging, leaving so much marks on the child. So all that, those are forms. And Section 28 prohibits that. Section 8 of Part 3 of the Child Rights Act prohibits that. In fact, you are not allowed to allow your child under 18 to go and do house girl or house boy for another person. But most of us, we do that. The child can go and do house girl. And that child is exploited. If you permit me, I would like to read it.
Okay.
Part 3, Section 29, Part 3, Section 30, Sub 1 says, a child shall not be used, A, for the purpose of begging for alms, guiding beggars, prostitution, domestic or sexual labor, or for any unlawful or immoral purpose. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Then B, as a slave or for practice similar to slavery, such as sale or trafficking of the child, debt bondage, serfdom, forced or compulsory labor, hawking of goods or services in main city streets, brothels or highways, for any purpose that deprives the child of the opportunity to attend or remain in school, as provided for under the Compulsory Free Universal Basic Education Act, procured or offered for prostitution or for the production of pornography or for any pornographic performance, procured or offered for any activity in production or trafficking of illegal drugs or any other activity. You see that? So the law, especially the Child Rights Act, actually explains things that this child should not be allowed to do. And a lot of child are being used for that. So the law, the Child Rights Act specifically itemizes things that children should not be used for. And if they do, there are punishments for it.
Okay. Over time, we have discovered that this menace does not involve one person.
Okay.
In your earlier introduction, you made mention of child trafficking or human trafficking being a network.
Yes.
Meaning it's a chain.
Yes.
That flows. Now, there is always a middleman.
Of course.
There is always the main person.
Yes.
And there's a transporter.
Yes.
Now, if the transporter or the middleman is being caught, will they receive the same punishment with the masterminder?
Of course, everyone involved in trafficking are all offenders. You know, most times the essence of it being a networking is to prevent the law to easily catch up with them. The person coming to the rural area of the family to take that child, then that person takes the child to a destination and will not go beyond that. Somebody else picks the child and it continues. The person that is transported, most of them don't enter like normal transport vehicles like go to park and all that. They can easily be caught. So they have their special transport system which they use. So when these persons are taken to a palace, but somebody else continues and it goes until they get to their destination. So whoever participates in that, they are offenders. There's no specific law to say if I'm just a driver, I didn't know they were using me. Most they know. They are paid highly to transport these children. Then you that brought the child from the village. Then the masterminder. It's not always easy to even catch the masterminder. Most times the person that participates in this trafficking may not even know who is the arrowhead at the end of the day.
Okay.
It's always not easy to catch the person. So whatever role you may have played, as long as you play the role to traffic that child, you face the punishments. And same for everybody.
It's an established fact that poverty is one of the major causes of trafficking and child abuse.
Yes.
And the parents, due to being deceived, I would like to use that word, being deceived.
Okay, some actually do
Some do know. Yes. Now, that drives me to my question.
Okay.
Now, what is the punishment for a parent who willingly gives his or her child to be trafficked?
Unfortunately, that's an aspect that laws are yet to be set for. I strongly believe that the government will look into that. Because when it happens, most parents, their response will be, I didn't know the child was taken for this purpose. That's usually the excuse. But I believe with time, the government will be able to set laws so that if your child is allowed, though the punishment for a child being allowed to use for begging and all that, the parents can also equally be prosecuted as it is. Looking at the provisions here, once you have allowed the child to go and beg, allowed the child to go and hawk, allowed the child to be used for prostitution, the parents should be part. I don't think the parents are even exonerated. But especially for human trafficking or child trafficking, most parents will give the excuse that they didn't know that the child was going to be used for whatever purpose they're being used for. But when this child is allowed to do all these things, all these forms of child abuse, that parent can be prosecuted.
Even when it is obvious that they cannot fend for the children.
You should be able to give birth to children you can feed. The child is entitled to free to the basic education, which is primary education. So the parents doesn't have any excuse to say, because I cannot fend, I cannot send my child to school. That's why I allow the child to be taken from me. Let the child is entitled to that elementary education, which is free. For the government to have put that as part of our system is to encourage a lot of these parents who cannot fend for their children to allow the children to go to school. Once the child gets that basic education and you cannot further, there are a lot of things to do. You can go and learn a trade. There's no, in fact, the way the country is now, most persons who are skilled are doing better.
Are making it more.
Very well. So if that should even be a good push for you to say, I beg, go and learn work. Even the ones that are even further, they are made to even learn a side skill. So that at the time you come out of school, there's no job from the government, which a lot of people want. You can work with your skill, and they make so much money. So I don't see why you carry your child to go and give somebody. You don't even know what they're using your child for. And with promises, which most times are not fulfilled. Yes.
What we'll do right now is open up the lines and make it more interactive for you to make your to ask your questions, your contributions, and to give us your own opinion on today's edition. And the lines to call are 080-22931-931 or 081-888-88931. I go again, 080-22931-931 or 081-888-88931. Before we moved on to opening up the lines, I would like to know what court has jurisdiction to entertain suits. It's an offense.
It's a criminal offense.
So definitely there should be a court that sits on such issues and decides.
Yeah, the High Court has jurisdiction to that. When these offenders are caught, they are charged properly before the High Court and they face the punishments. And recently, the National Judicial Court also was included. So all these are courts that can sit properly to try offenders.
All right, I think we have a caller. Good afternoon. Your name and location, please. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Calling from Kotodu.
Sorry, please, can you move away from your TV set, please?
Okay, I said just calling from Kotodu.
You're welcome, Mr. Joseph. Please go ahead.
Okay. I just want to ask the resource person a question.
Okay.
The parents that cannot feed their children. And you look as if she was dodging it as if they have no parents, their children that are not facing such a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Please, what's your question again?
Yeah, I said you asked the resource person a question that there are some parents who have children that they cannot cater for.
Yes.
And she looks as if she was dodging that area that there are no such children.
Okay, please, I think you have to answer.
Okay, I think maybe you misunderstood. I don't think, even for people that are trying, it's not easy.
Yes.
So I don't think I want to flog that issue that there are parents who cannot feed for their children. But that's not a reason for you to send your children to go to the street to opt.
No, you said that is the sign of poverty now, which is one of the reasons.
Yes, I mentioned, yes. Poverty is one of the major reasons why these children are being exposed to child abuse or human trafficking. But as parents, it's better the children are with you and you do your little means to take care of your children.
No, well, you see, the truth is that if such parents have tried and there's no way, you see.
So it's convenient to allow the children to be hawked, to be trafficked and exploited. Do you think that one is better? I don't think it's better.
Well, that is not an option
at all.
For us, we know that poverty is a society menace too.
Of course.
But that is actually not a yardstick for you to
allow your children to be exploited.
Purposely
exploit
your children. And now, what are the challenges? You have made mention of some NGOs putting in some measures to curb this issue. That's our discourse for today. What are the challenges with regard to implementing such?
Inadequate funding. Most times some of these agencies do not have enough funds to carry out the fight against human trafficking. Then we have inadequate penalty. For me, I feel that there should be more stiffer punishments. The option of fine should be, I don't think it should be part of the punishment. If you're found guilty, you go and serve jail term. In fact, they should make it life imprisonment.
It's obvious that you are not comfortable with the option of fine.
Because when you commit that crime and at the end of the day you're found guilty, you're told to either go and serve a jail term or pay a fine, you go and look for money to pay the fine. And when they do, they continue. It's a very rich, it's a very lucrative business for them. They make a lot of money, I tell you. You know how much it costs in the market to sell an organ. Most of them that are trafficked are to exploit and take the organs and sell them without their consent. And these children are brought back with just one organ. They'll start having health issues. And you say, because you cannot take care of the child, so let the child go. That's not an excuse. It's never an excuse. When I say, please give birth to children that you can manage to take care of, people will say, what do you mean? Yes, African cultural belief. You are expected to have as much kids as you can.
I think we have a caller. Good afternoon. You're welcome to the show. Your name and location, please.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Daniel from Missouri.
Okay, good to have you. Please go ahead.
All right. The question that I would like to ask the person is that this law of children hawking, when has it been in existence?
When has it been in existence?
When?
I know very well that it's been there for a while. Like when you're calling from Ozoro, I know there was a task force or a committee that was inaugurated one time by a Pala chairman, I think Honorable Emmanuel Igbabo, if I'm not mistaken. He actually inaugurated a committee to fight against, to stop children from street hawking when they're supposed to be in school, yes. But unfortunately, for some time, it has not really been effective.
Okay, all right. The reason why I said this is the things that were not taught in the 4 walls of classroom when we were in school, because my mother then was a trader, and we were 7. After school, we always have stayed and this. We engage in hawking to be able to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And one good thing now is that all of us are educated graduates, but we toe the line of trading. We are all scattered around the world, and most of us are engaged in that spirit of finding a solution to fix problem to fix and making money through it, and which are not taught in classroom. So I think in the aspect of African culture, it has its own merit as well. So far, the child is not abused. It's out of our way. We enjoyed doing it when we were young. That was in the 90s, 80s. We enjoyed doing it very well.
Hello.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I actually agree with what he said with hawking after school. That actually is my next question before the call came in. Can a child be allowed to hawk after school?
I just read the provision here in section 30 part 3, which talks about child labor. Any child under 18 cannot be used to beg for harms. domestic, sexual. A child should not be used for hawking of goods. The law does not permit it. The time he's talking about, thank God he even specified the period. Life was still a bit better. Now with all the things we are seeing, these children are exploited not only for sex, for ritualistic purpose. A lot of negative things out there. And you allow your child because you say, I cannot fend for them, let them go and say. We know how many of them who have been lured into homes and they are raped. I have a case which I was on for a while, where this woman, not that the children were hawking, they were quite young, but at the end of the day, the children were exploited. And not because she was trying to make ends meet. There is never a good ending to these stories we hear. To protect your children, that's what we are saying. Because when it happens, it's not only physical trauma, emotional, it goes beyond that immediate time.
Down to the psychological state of the children.
So we have to try every way we can to protect our children. Unfortunately, when we talk about child abuse, it's not even just within, it's not even just on the street, even within our environment, even schools they go to. We see, we've heard and we have seen, where even proprietors of schools, or headmasters or headmistresses, they exploit these children, yes. We are only trying to see how we can reduce this menace. Of course, there's no way we can totally erase it. There's no way it
can be stopped, yeah.
But as a parent, these are things you need to know. If back then you could walk on the street, nobody molests you, nobody harasses you, or you were kidnapped, good and fine. But now the times have changed. Your neighbor, your nearest neighbor is even a suspect. I tell you.
Okay, we have a caller. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Your name and location, please.
My name is Wilson. I'm calling from Oslo.
Good to have you. Please go ahead.
What you, madam, was much thank her very much. If you got to today now, you'll find some of the children, school hour, the water, and at the end of the day, can you imagine a 12-year-old boy frying indomie of 1,200 naira with 50 naira long? That money, can't I take that money to our parents? To use that, to utilize that money for the school fees of our address. You see, most of them, the problem that we have from the parents, because they give the children free hands to go and hop in the school hour. So it's very, very strong. So what I'm trying to do now is, government, you need to exercise it from radio and paper to everywhere. So they need to educate people towards radio.
Yeah.
Let people to get that orientation and awareness in everywhere. Yeah. Thank you. That is my thing.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful contribution. It was indeed a wonderful one. Lastly, before we take the last caller for today, most of these victims that have been exploited or trafficked outside the country and they return, there's this stigmatization that comes with it. Yeah. Now, is there any measure the government is putting in place aside helping them in getting some skill, more like mental health, to check if they are really sound?
Unfortunately, the government is here to set up such centers. Okay. Because apart from the human traffickers, we also have children who have also faced child abuse, maybe raped and all that, even within the states. And when it happens, you find out that most parents, because of stigmatization, they're not willing to further. They're not willing to prosecute the matter. They don't want people to start laughing at them. But if measures are put in place, like rehabilitation, funds to encourage these parents to live above their average, you know, at least to be able to provide for the immediate family, and that psychological or medical assistance to make these child be able to pass that experience, to go a long way. But unfortunately, we are yet to have such. Though recently, there have been talks about as such hospitals, if I may use that word, are set up for such purposes. Okay. But good enough, we have NGOs, organizations who have fared in that aspect. You know, like the IOM I mentioned, International Organization for Migration. Over times, when they bring back some of these persons who have been trafficked, they put them where they can make them learn some skills or assist them in furthering whatever skills they may have learned, and even also helping them. So that to an extent has also helped them to get better, you know. So we will encourage the government at this time. I know it's going to be a lot of funding, you know, but if there are genuine cases that comes, because there are very good ways you can get such information, and then these persons are properly put on the right track, I think the emotional trauma will reduce to a time. But you see that for such young ones who have experienced such, I find that in future it affects them in their dealings with humans, their day-to-day activities and all that. They have one strong hatred towards the opposite sex, and it continues. We know, we've seen.
There's always an after effect.
After effects. So we encourage our government to do more in that aspect. And hopefully we can be able to fight the menace. If not totally eradicate. But at least curb it to an extent. Yes.
Speaking of funds, you made mention of some NGOs. Now, most persons, talking about the parents of the victims, they will want to prosecute. They want to go to court, and they don't have the ability to proceed to court, and they just, we don't have money, we can't proceed, let God be the judge. That is what they say.
Some of them,
yes. So I want to know, who prosecutes? Is it the parents or the government on behalf of the parents?
Most times the state does prosecute on behalf of the victim. You know, like I told you of some cases that have come to my table. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. Your name and location, please. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Blessed. I call it from Ewen.
All right, you're welcome. Please go ahead. Have your say.
Okay, like this issue of human trafficking that you are talking about.
Yes.
Like what I said in it, because there is nothing that can do to stop this issue, because it's already late. Because even most of the children where they are walking in the street, even if you sit there, you cannot even call them or encourage them, because they are suffering for themselves. Nobody can. So the only thing I suggest, I believe if government can do something better to the children, they should do something. That is my only contribution.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
I can say something on that.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, the basic education which the law provides for, and good enough, most schools in Delta states, the primary education has been free. And we know recently, humanitarian office, Abuja, put in place where these children are fed from primary 1 to 3. That has also helped a lot. Has also encouraged our young ones to go to school. Then also, this administration by Governor Ko has also done very well. There have been a lot of skill acquisition. So saying the government should do more, I don't know, the government should start sharing money or what? I don't understand. Let them get their basic education. That's standard first. Then if the child cannot further, there are a lot of skills you can learn. The government has also fed very well. There have been a lot of skill acquisition from one month to another. In fact, I want to give kudos to this administration. They've tried very well. A lot of persons have been, they become skilled as a result of this administration. Some learned catering, tailoring, mention them. At the end of the training, they are also giving funds, giving equipment or whatever to continue. So these are things that have been put in place by the government to help parents. Yes, nobody is saying parents are not hustling and not struggling to take care of their children. But what I'm saying that it is not right for you to allow your child to walk on the street when the child is supposed to be in school. You're already breaching that child's fundamental rights to education, free education. It is free. We have told them, let any principal or let any headmistress or headmaster tell you to pay money, report to us. We take it up. Yes.
It's as serious as that.
It is. Buy your books, struggle and buy the notebooks for them.
Yes.
They don't pay anything. Primary 1 to 6. Free education in government established primary schools. Can the child at least have that one? That's what we're saying. You're thinking of a child walking on the street and he's struggling. Who is making the child go and struggle on the street when he's supposed to be in class?
Well, indeed, it has been a wonderful time on Law Society, and indeed, we want to appreciate our guest, Barrister Faith, for a wonderful time. Thank you so much. And I also plead with you to please help us drive this message through to your NGO, IFO, and DOF too.
Yeah, I don't know if I can offer my WhatsApp number. I do that.
Okay.
So you can also WhatsApp my number 08134704397. I repeat again, 08134704937. Feel very free to chat me up on my WhatsApp if you feel there are issues relating to human trafficking or child abuse. But other than that, I will charge you my fees. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for spending so much time with us.
I really enjoy my time with you,
Yes, thank you so much indeed. Yes. It has been an educating time. And to you, our listeners and viewers out there, we really want to say a big thank you for joining us today on Law Society. And I would like to remind you that Law Society and I is every Wednesday by 1 p.m. and also on weekends. And for us, it's bye-bye. Do have a lovely day. Thank you.